Something many people don't talk about when it comes to wokeness in media is that it's often a product of insular elitism, the mindset of famous, rich, and powerful people living in a high-status bubble separate from you and I, the average 9-to-5 Joe who has needs and concerns that those of higher status and class do not. Because of this, people of higher status tend to dictate and talk down to you and I. They preach values based on an assumption that they will be praised and beloved for doing so, as they often are with their peers and others in their circles. But they couldn't be more wrong. Americans all hold different perspectives and values on many different topics and issues. They tend to value some issues over others depending on how that issue affects them personally. As an example, something your typical upper-class elite might see as very important and to, quote, change in the world, you or I may be completely unaffected by in our daily lives in any way, shape, or form that's meaningful. This creates division of ideas when it comes to both defining and solving problems between the two groups of people. But it also creates a smug, holier-than-thou attitude in those with more wealth, fame, and power to, quote, educate those who see life differently. They view those unlike them in ideology as simply ignorant and uneducated. Therefore, it's their duty to educate others on what is good and righteous. Lately, this has all taken the obnoxious form of wokeness. If you don't prescribe to woke ideology, you are presumed to be inherently against what is, quote, good for humanity and a driving force for bettering ourselves, or so they say. Things that once meant something, like diversity and inclusion, are used as buzzwords by many of the higher status individuals as a bat, to beat those who see differently over the head with, while more often than not being ignorant to how those very concepts work to begin with. Diversity and inclusion don't mean race and gender swapping characters to make people feel more included. That foolishly assumes that people of that race and gender you swapped out for felt alienated by those characters not being exactly like them in the most shallow and narcissistic ways. Diversity happens naturally, not by force. Assuming something like classic Star Wars only attracts straight white males ignores the reality that it actually attracts all walks of life. The cast being mostly white means nothing. It is not by default excluding audience members who are of any other ethnicity from actually enjoying it. Yet that's the mindset that prevails, and why you see established characters being changed artificially. It's narcissism to an unhealthy degree and wildly detached from reality and general audience expectations. As a recent example, the Little Mermaid live-action remake did this, because it wrongly assumes little girls who aren't white can't look at Ariel and relate to her unless she looks like them. They somehow managed to insult the intelligence of every non-white girl who grew up loving Ariel in the 90s as a character by telling them effectively, you can't like them if they aren't like you, down to their ethnicity. They also passed this down to their descendants, which is a huge insult. Normal people don't think like this. Only people who have egos to the point of being horrible to be around think like this. Which is exactly why Hollywood and elite types have latched onto wokeism. The entire industry and its social circles are obsessed with themselves to a disgusting degree. There are of course exceptions to this rule, as there always tend to be, but they're sadly the exception, not the rule. These circles are largely unhealthy, filled with problems in abundance. They can destroy lives with drugs, alcohol, wild sex, using sex for favors as currency, and just horrible, seemingly endless vices. I say all of this not because I speak on behalf of others. Plenty share the mentality of these upper-class bubble types, which I believe is unfortunate. I say it because I'm tired of watching the damage it's doing to entertainment and many folks' enjoyment of said entertainment. The fun is being replaced with self-absorbed preaching of values that, while claimed to be universal, aren't universally shared or applied as a virtue signal to get praise from peers and corrupted institutions. Entertainment is celebrated for being enjoyable, and for most, that metric isn't based on race, gender, politics, or sexuality. It's based on the overall quality of that specific entertainment as a whole, and if it's, well, entertaining. But in modern entertainment, they demand wokeness endlessly. Its adherents are unappeasable, always finding more and more ways that a form of entertainment can be woke, with expectations always increasing and creativity being sacrificed. And we need to understand, those of higher status pushing wokeness often don't respect those not living and thinking as they do. They scoff and mock those responsible for their success and preach down to them. As long as they do that, they will fail, and sadly, in many cases, will never be able to realize why. This has been Super Koopa with another Koopa commentary. Thank you for watching. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.